to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance, as always, is brought to you by BetNow.eu. For all your betting, gambling, sports betting needs, make sure you go to BetNow.eu, use the promo code TRUTH50 to get a 50% cash back bonus up to your first deposit of $1,000. I am your host for Survive and Advance today. And as you can tell, since I said I'm your host today and you didn't hear anybody go, you're just the co-host, I'm Mike Goodpaster. Steve Risley is at the beach today. Yeah, he's at the beach. And he would have to do the show later. Plus, I didn't want to wait. So I wanted to tell everybody that tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on thegruelingtruth.com, you will be able to hear my interview live with former Jacksonville Jaguars Pro Bowl kicker, Mike Hollis. So make sure you check us out tomorrow at 3 o'clock live. And hopefully Steve will be back with us tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, guys, the biggest sports news of the day, NFL-wise, would have to be Ezekiel Elliott. And with Ezekiel Elliott's training camp out holdout continuing into the second week of training camp, Dallas Cowboy owner Jerry Jones does not appear to be overly concerned. Jones has been the owner for the last 30 years, pointed out that the first team to win a Super Bowl with a rushing champion in the backfield was Emmitt Smith, who did it for the Cowboys in 1992. The point here is, and this is Jerry Jones's word, you don't have to have a rushing champion to win in a Super Bowl. And, of course, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have proved that repeatedly over the last decade or two. And when you look back at it, Smith went on to accomplish the feat twice more in 93 and 95. The one thing that Jerry Jones misses here, I believe it was 93, Emmitt held out the first 2 weeks of the season, and the Cowboys lost both games. When they got Emmitt back, they started to roll again. So when you look at that, I mean, it's got to give you a little pause for the cause here because Ezekiel Elliott is not a normal running back. But when you look at Ezekiel, he has led the NFL in rushing in 2 of 3 seasons. He's averaged 101.2 yards, 34 touchdowns on the ground. And that's one of the dilemmas at running back. In this league, you know that you can win Super Bowls and not have Emmitt Smith back there. But can you win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott back there with no Ezekiel Elliott? So when we look at this, potential options, today they signed Alfred Morris, who was with them when they lost Zeke before. And the thing is this, when you're looking at giving Ezekiel Elliott that much money, the thing that strikes me is the fact that you never know when he's going to be suspended because basically he has screwed up off the field repeated times. And if you give him this money and you bankroll everything on Ezekiel Elliott, what happens if he gets suspended again? Now, you have a few options. Number one is Alfred Morris, who is a quality running back who's done well in the past everywhere he's been. Was, I think, a Pro Bowler with the Washington Redskins a few years ago. But right now, the Cowboys have 3 viable options at halfbacks outside of Morris. That would be better than Darius Jackson. He is the only player with any NFL experience. 6 carries, 16 yards. It's difficult to think that this team would have Jackson handle most of the carries, as most people consider him on the roster bubble to begin with. Then you have a couple more intriguing guys here. You got rookie Tony Pollard and rookie Mike Weber. And they will have training camp to show that they are worthy of getting the majority of carries. The guy here that stands out to me is Weber. He has the best resume. He was a workhorse at Ohio State, topping out at 182 rushes his freshman year, carrying it 172 times the other. He would probably have to prove he can handle the carries in the preseason before giving the job at linebacker. They've got a fullback, Jamizi Alawali, who has the most experience on the roster and was brought back with a 3-year deal. But when you look at this here, I would think that if you're going to be successful without Ezekiel Elliott, this is going to be something like what they did in 2017 when Elliott was suspended for 6 games. The club initially looked to Alfred Morris to shoulder the load, and they deferred to the veteran with limited results. By the time you get to the 3rd game of that 6-game suspension, the splits between him and Rod Smith turned even. And in the 4th game, things started to pay off. The first 3 games were, of course, without left tackle Tyron Smith. But I think we saw here that sharing the load between 2 different styles turned out to be the best strategy. So when you look at this and you're Jerry Jones, I think the question has to be, Is Dak Prescott a good enough quarterback to win you a Super Bowl without an Ezekiel Elliott? When I look at this, I look back last year to the Rams and Jared Goff. I think if you take Todd Gurley away from Jared Goff's all of a sudden really average. I do believe Dak Prescott has the ability to be better than Jared Goff. I think he is right now. He's a guy that has been a winner the last 3 years. He's a really good quarterback. And when you look at that, I would kind of tend to go with Jerry Jones here. Running backs are a dime a dozen. There's not many Ezekiel Elliott's, but last year Todd Gurley was the best running back. He didn't win the Super Bowl. Outside of Emmitt Smith and Terrell Davis with the Denver Broncos, not many guys there have won Super Bowls. So when you look at it here, you're already going to have to pay Dak Prescott a lot of money. If you tie all that money up in Ezekiel Elliott, in the future, does that hurt your chances to be able to bring in defensive help? I mean, we saw it with the Indianapolis Colts, over a decade ago, where they tied all their money up into 3 offensive players. And when they did that, the defense never could catch up. Of course, you had the injury to Bob Sanders, which really hurt the defense. But in the end, I think it really hamstrung the Colts on being able to really get things done and to win more than the one Super Bowl that they won. So in the end here, I think it's very possible that the Dallas Cowboys, as crazy as it sounds, may be better off to not give Ezekiel Elliott the contract. Now, the question is, we saw it with Le'Veon Bell last year, how does that affect this year? Because if Ezekiel Elliott's not happy, you're going to have Cowboy fans upset. How does this trickle down into the locker room with the Dallas Cowboys? Because you have what I would say, and Jason Garrett is not a very strong leader as a head coach. I think he's a decent head coach. But I don't know. I think if you don't re-sign Ezekiel Elliott, in the long term, it might be the better thing. For this year, I think it's really going to hurt your team because it's going to cause a lot of unnecessary outside influences to get into this locker room that I don't think Jason Garrett can deal with as a head coach. So I don't know, but it looks like Jerry Jones is going to stand his ground there. We'll see how that works out for him. But right now, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break to listen to Game Day IQ's promo. Game Day IQ is a show you can hear every Thursday night on The Grueling Truth. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jason Whitlock and his comments about LeBron James. We'll be back right after this.
Tune in to Game Day IQ for the smartest hour in sports. Test your knowledge of sports trivia on everything from football, basketball, and baseball to cricket, tennis, and hockey, to horse racing, auto racing, and soccer, and, of course, the Olympics. Every week, you'll learn tantalizing details of sports' most intriguing conundrums that you can stump your friends with.
Find out what sports figure needs a remedial trip to Coach Buck's bench. Settle in for story time with Uncle Bucky. See if this is the week that I go off on a Category 5 level rant. Learn whose performance on or off the playing surface deserves a special place on this week's pedestal. All that plus a variety of other features that all add up to the most cerebral hour in sports this week. Oh, and you'll have fun too. So raise your Game Day IQ by joining me, host Chris Cook and
Alan Buck, for an informative look at this week in sports right here at thegruelingtruth.net.
Join BetNow.eu, courtesy of the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. Just use the promo code TRUTH50. That's promo code TRUTH50. All right, guys, we're back on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Make sure you hit that TRUTH50 when you get to BetNow.eu for all your sports gambling needs. I am your host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Hopefully Stephen Risley will be back with us tomorrow. He's hanging out at the beach with his dog. Yeah, really, he's hanging out at the beach with his dog. I'm not making that up. All right, next news. We got LeBron James. Fox Sports commentator Jason Whitlock, who's not one of my favorites, is not a fan of LeBron James acting exuberant at his son's AAU basketball games. On Monday, the veteran journalist compared the LA Lakers star parenting to LeVar Ball and correlated James's thirst for fame to a cocaine addiction. Whitlock said it's inappropriate. It points out to how much fame has inevitably changed LeBron over the past decade. Fame is a drug more potent and dangerous than cocaine. LeBron is a fame and social media junkie. He moved to L.A. looking for a better high. Now, Jason Whitlock's a guy that gets his high from eating a lot of greasy foods, it looks like, and also is never a man to stray away from something controversial to get his fat ass in the picture here. And he's done that now. And when you look at this, LeBron James, Jason Whitlock said he once defended James in the 2008 NBA playoffs when James's mother, Gloria, grew angry with Boston Celtics forward Paul Pierce for getting feisty with her son. James told his mother to, in his words, sit your ass down. And this is the thing, and we've all seen it. I mean, I've coached youth sports when my kids play. You always have the parents that are looking to live through their kids. They make general asses out of themselves at peewee games, at youth baseball games, and they make themselves the story. It's like, if your son's really good, let's scream and holler so everybody looks at me, because you're taking attention away from your son. LeBron's been in a layup line dunking the ball before his son's AAU games, and it's just asinine. I don't know why he would do that, and I know a lot of people are critical of Jason Whitlock's comments. I usually am too, but, Jason Tatum made a point. He said, with so many fathers not supporting the kids, we get upset because he is genuinely happy for his son. I agree with that, with Jason Tatum, because anymore it's hard to find. I mean, there's a lot of kids. I can tell you the last time I coached a youth football team or a junior high football team, that it seemed like at least half the kids didn't have a father around, which is extremely sad, and it is one of the problems with society today, is that you don't have parents to take an interest in their own kids. So when I look at that, I think it is awesome that LeBron James is there. But I don't think LeBron James needs to make himself the main topic of conversation. The main topic of conversation should be how good LeBron James' son is. And from what I hear, he's a really good player. So why do we have to, if you're LeBron James, inject yourself that way? I mean, I don't think that we could call him a LeVar Ball, because I think LeBron James is genuinely happy for his son. He's proud that his son is a very good player. He needs to let it go at that. Now, we know that LeBron is not one of these guys that is living through his son, because probably no matter what his son does, his son is never going to be able to accomplish what his father did. And with that being said, I think it is awesome that LeBron's doing this. I think LeBron just needs to take a step back and maybe realize that we need to make this more about his son than about him. And I know no matter what LeBron does at a game, whether it's cheering or whatever he does, everything is going to go back and they're going to show videos of LeBron. But don't get in the dunk line. Just let your son have his moment, and you have your moment as a father. Because I could genuinely tell you this. I played sports. I coached sports at a fairly high level. There is nothing better than watching your own son succeed, or fail, for that matter. Because if you're playing sports, sometimes you're a success, sometimes you're not. It's just like life. And I can tell you from my own experience, I've coached football for 30 years. And I've coached championship games at the professional level, high school level. And when it comes down to it, the most fun that I ever had coaching a football game was a national, the NHFA national semifinal last year, where my son intercepts a pass with a minute left. We get a 3rd and 1, and my other son pops the block to get the first down to seal the game. And I can tell you this, no matter how many games you play yourself, no matter how many championships you win, it's nothing like watching your son. So my suggestion to LeBron James is just relax, enjoy your son, cheer for your son, don't make yourself the focal point. And Jason Whitlock, you need to get a life.
Make sure if you enjoy betting on baseball to go check out BetNow.eu's Grand Slam contest. A weekly winner will receive $5,000 in cash, and there will be 5 consolation prizes given out to the top 5 finishers. Make sure you go to BetNow.eu and use the promo code TRUTH50 to get a 50% cashback bonus on your first deposit.
All right, guys, we're back on the Gruely True Sports Network, Survive and Advance. I'm Mike Goodpaster, and right now we're going to touch on something that I usually don't touch on. No, it's not soccer. What I'm going to, it's not NASCAR either, as Steve Risley's listening to us later on as he gets home from the beach. What we're going to talk about today is something Anthony Servino, who I tried to call yesterday to see if he wanted to be on the show, but Anthony didn't answer the phone. You can check out Anthony's show, FF Face Off, on thegruelingtruth.com. It is the best fantasy football show out there. But today what we're going to talk about is second-year players who I think will give you great value headed into your fantasy football draft. And I'm going to start off with DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. Now, I think we saw some real signs of stardom from Moore last year. Caught 32 passes over the final 7 games of the rookie season. Led the league in yards after catch per reception at an exceptional 7.69. Very fast, 22 years old. Now with Devin Funchess, now in Indianapolis, I think he profiles as my favorite of the Panthers' young pass catchers. You also, if Greg Olson's back, that will help him. But if he's not back, it may give him even more touches. I think that DJ Moore with Cam Newton, if Cam is healthy, Cam has to be ready to prove himself. So I would say DJ Moore for the Carolina Panthers as a wide receiver, I would definitely take a look at this year. Another wide receiver from the NFC, Christian Kirk, who's with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the fact that Kirk was even able to make an impact last season for a abysmal Arizona offense is anecdotal evidence enough that this kid can play. There's nowhere to go but up from him. Kirk managed at least 8 points in 7 of his final 8 games. That is not a gaudy metric, but if we assume a more fast-paced passing game, kind of an air raid style under Cliff Kingsbury, whose offense is normally played at a massive number of snaps, just the fact that Christian Kirk's going to have so many more snaps is going to give him the ability to have even more receptions and have a better season. He is solid after the catch. I think he's a technically sound route runner, has good hands, and Kyler DeKirk, let's face it, sounds like fun. So I think with Christian Kirk, DJ Moore, I think you've got 2 wide receivers right there you can get very good value with. They're going to have really good seasons. A couple more wide receivers I want to talk about. Number 1 is Courtland Sutton. He's the wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. Rookie season last year, 42 catches, 704 yards. And we saw quite a bit of him last year as he made an immediate impression during training camp. It was thrust into more action than Demaryius Thomas, who was traded to the Texans. Now, what immediately stands out from Sutton was his big play ability, which, of course, fantasy football, touchdowns get you points, as he finished 7th in the NFL with 16.8 yards per reception. He was one of 3 young wideouts with Deshaun Hamilton and Tim Patrick, who logged extended playing time for the Broncos. Now, Sutton remains the one whose upside, I believe, is the best, particularly with what seems to be the inside track on a number 2 job. Or maybe even taking over Emmanuel Sanders' job at, the number 1 receiver. And I think that even if that doesn't happen by week 1 with Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton, I think it's something we could see happen by mid-season with Courtland Sutton. So there's another wide receiver that I really look forward to seeing. Now, another one is Dante Pettis, who, when you look at his stats, it doesn't look that great. 27 receptions, 467 yards, 5 touchdowns. But a lot of what happened in San Francisco offensively last year had to do with the injury of Jimmy Garoppolo. And even so, Pettis made his mark with Nick Mullins, who really, for his first NFL action, played well. He had a 3-game streak of 7 or more targets and a receiving touchdown in each game. The only players with a longer streak last season were Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, Christian McCaffrey, and Keenan Allen, which is not too bad a company to be associated with if you're a wide receiver. Pettis also 17.3 yards per catch, 5th best amongst the 212 receivers or players in the league with at least 20 catches. The 49ers offense figures to be even more explosive this year. They've upgraded in the backfield. The offensive line should be a little bit better. If you get a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, Dante Pettis is a guy who could explode onto the scene this year. And I think Dante Pettis, with his speed and his route running, could be huge this year. All right, let's move on, and let's go to some running backs. And first of all, I want to bring up Kalen Ballage, with the Miami Dolphins. Now, Ballard's rookie season was one predicated upon patience. 27 of his 36 carries came during a 3-week December stretch with Frank Gore gone. Ballard is going toe-to-toe with Kenyon Drake for the starting gig, which might actually prevail as the workhorse. That being said, his physical traits are hard to miss. He's 6'2", 240 pounds, nice speed, and his role might just be good enough that he becomes a viable weekly lineup cog. His early strong start in training camp has drawn plenty of attention. And let's face it, with the Dolphins, they're probably going to run the ball a lot. They've got quarterback issues. So I think Kalen Ballard is one of the lone bright spots for what may be a dark season for the Miami Dolphins this year. Now, if we transition, a guy that was hurt, missed all last year with an ACL tear, was Darius Geis. He's with the Washington Redskins. These are legitimate health concerns. All right, this is why if I'm picking him towards the bottom. And there's a big chance you could get burnt here. But Geis has an abundance of natural talent that was on display prior to his injury that he suffered in a preseason game last August. Now, Adrian Peterson was a successful addition for Washington and figures to be in the mix again this season. But if, and this is a really big if Geis is fully healthy and able to handle an expanded role, he is due for some fantasy greatness, because if the kid is healthy and he's 100%, he could be special. Now let's move on. Tight end. Let's talk about tight ends, and we're going to talk about the New York Jets a little bit. They got Sam Darnold, who I'm going to mention in a little bit. Now, Chris Herndon's here. Chris Herndon's 39 receptions, 502 yards, 4 touchdowns last season. A 4-game suspension to begin the season unquestionably affects the value of Herndon. But there's a lot to like about his game based off what we saw last year. He ranked 4th among tight ends in air yards per target, 10.3, 7th in yards per catch at 12.9. Now, I noted Darnold's expected improvement, and that will make Herndon's game, a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, his security blanket, his best friend, is his tight end. That's where Chris Herndon comes in here. And Chris Herndon, middle of this draft could be a huge pickup. And I would tie it into my quarterback here, who's a second-year guy, who I really expect good things from this year, and that's Sam Darnold. Now, Sam only completed 58% of his passes last year, 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. It was a rookie season of peaks and valleys for Darnold, exemplified by a pick-6 on his first career pass before he guided the Jets to a season-opening win. A foot injury affected Darnold in the second half of the season, but when it finally got right and he returned to the field, it was a 6-touchdown, 1-interception stretch of 3 games. The Jets bolstered their offense with Le'Veon Bell, Jamison Crowder, which should lend itself to more easy yards via the short passing game. You also throw in Chris Herndon at tight end, and this may sound crazy, but if Sam Darnold could come around this year and improve and just not screw things up, the New York Jets could challenge for the playoffs. And that's something that, is not often said. But, all right, guys, before we come back and wrap the show up, we're going to hear from our guys at Ringside Boxing Show. The interesting thing about the Ringside Boxing Show is they had a great guest last Sunday night. You can find it on thegruelingtruth.com, as they had boxing analyst Teddy Atlas on to talk about the recent deaths in boxing, the PEDs, the welterweight division, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman. So make sure you go check them out, but we'll be back right after this.
Hey, this is Dennis Taylor, host of the Ringside Boxing Show, inviting you to join us every week right here on the Grueling Truth Sports Network for a high-energy romp through the always fascinating world of professional boxing. We give you 90 scintillating minutes that includes insight from our expert analysts, professional boxer Travis Hartman, boxing journalist Rizwan Zahid, and nationally known author and boxing writer John J. Responti. We give you an update on the United Kingdom boxing scene from British correspondent Paul McLaughlin, and amazing tours through the storied past of professional boxing with our historian Christopher James Shelton. Not to mention a 10-year legacy of more than 500 world-class guests. If you're a boxing junkie, the Ringside Boxing Show is the tonic you're going to need every week. Check us out and discover why we have the most listened to podcast on the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
The hottest, sweatiest show on West Coast radio.
All right, guys, we are back on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Mike Goodpaster. This is Survive in Advance. I want to thank everybody for listening today, but I can't let this go because this is our final parting thought, and this is the amazing feat of the day. Competitive eater Joey Chestnut, a 12-time Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest champion, now has another title to add to his resume. He is now the Chicken Wing King. Chestnut ate 413 Hooters chicken wings over the course of 12 hours on Monday, which, of course, Monday was National Chicken Wing Day, at the Mall of Georgia. That equals an average of 34 wings per hour. 34 wings per hour. Chestnut was taking advantage of the restaurant's $15.99 all-you-can-eat wing deal. After starting at 11 a.m., he was presented a T-shirt after downing his 250th wing around 5:50. Then he ate for several more hours. The 35-year-old Chestnut made history at the beginning of the month after he won yet another annual Independence Day hot dog eating contest. He has won 12 of the last 13, including 2018's record of 74 hot dogs in 10 minutes. He previously won Philadelphia's Wing Bowl when he ate 182 wings in just 30 minutes. And for Steve Risley, I bring this up just because I think Joey Chestnut is more of an athlete than any NASCAR or auto racing driver in the world. And see, the great thing about Steve not being on, he can't respond to me. But Joey Chestnut, 413 Hooter wings in 12 hours. I guess he's going to be our bet now craziest athlete of the day. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. I want to thank everybody that listens in every day. If you want to send us any messages, you have any comments for the show, go to @GrillingTruth. Also, if you like what we do at thegruelingtruth.com, you can go into thegruelingtruth.com, click the little PayPal icon, donate whatever, $1, $2, $5. Because we are different than ESPN. We're different than Fox Sports News. We're not being paid off by any of the big NFL, NBA, any of that stuff, which you'll find out over the next few weeks as we delve more into the NFL and their opioid crisis, the ban on marijuana and CBD with the NFL. And I want to remind everybody, Mike Hollis, former Jacksonville Jaguar, Pro Bowl kicker, will be with us tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern. And me and Steve Risley, hopefully Steve will be back at 1 o'clock with me tomorrow on Survive in Advance. So make sure you check all those out. I want to remind you, our main sponsor, BetNow.eu. Click on the BetNow.eu banner on the GruelingTruth.com page. Put in the promo code TRUTH50 to get a 50% cash back bonus up to your first $1,000 deposit. So right now we're going to wrap it up for today. I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, over 200 places where you can hear us. So wherever you find any kind of podcast at all, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for me, Mike Goodpaster, you've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.